Ready, set, hut, hut.
As the hills of West Virginia resound with the sounds of Golden Blue football.
Almost heaven, West Virginia.
Now let's bring on the Mountaineers. Goes around about the 50 to 10 to 5. A touchdown, West Virginia. He did it.
He did it. Patrick White. Touchdown, Tavon Austin.
But Don Nehlen's Mountaineers enjoy walking in where angels fear to tread.
I think you think that these guys are going to fall over dead for you. Well, I got news for you. They're going to punch you right in the mouth.
It's Mountaineer pride.
Nothing cheap, nothing dirty, but West Virginia football. West Virginia football.
We've no doubt tonight they shouldn't have played the old Golden Blue. Not this night. They've done it. They've done it. A perfect season. And the Mountaineers, for the first time in history, undefeated and untied.
Don Nehlen and his Mountaineers, for the second time, have finished a regular season with an unblemished mark.
Ain't no stopping the Golden Blue.
It is a great night to be a Mountaineer wherever you may be.
What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome back into another live stream here on the Country Roads webcast, June 11th edition, as we have another WVU football recruiting update to talk about. We talked in the past, on multiple of these recruiting updates, how West Virginia is really swinging for the fences in this 2026 class, going after some highly touted prospects, right? And now, maybe none more higher ranked at their position than the one we're going to talk about on this stream. And funny enough, he's coming from in-state, as West Virginia is going after one of the top position players in the country there at the punter position in the 2026 class, number one in the nation at that position. We'll talk about him throughout this stream. We also have news on some future WVU football schedules I want to hit on. That'll kind of be the main topics on the football side. Then on the back half of the show, do want to talk a little WVU basketball, just a tiny bit, because one thing that had been up in the air was, of course, the Chance Moore transfer. We were waiting on it to finally be announced. And then, earlier this week, might have been about a week's time or so ago, it was officially announced, but we weren't sure what was the status because we knew he was probably going to need a waiver. And we know how West Virginia's, history with waivers and the NCAA on the basketball side has went, right? So we were a little bit leery, but we have positive news on that as well, as far as the waiver in WVU basketball. So that's positive at least. So that's what we got on the docket for this one. Appreciate you guys tuning in here that are watching live or watching after the fact. Either way you choose to do so, I appreciate you giving this a watch and staying up to date on some WVU football and basketball news. Those of you that are watching live, though, if you're on Facebook or Twitch, be sure to come over to the Country Roads Webcast YouTube channel, subscribe here so you can get the pre-recorded videos, podcast episodes in addition to these live streams. And if you are here on YouTube viewing this, whether you're watching live or after the fact, just take a second, hit that little thumbs up button. Take your thumb over. Most of you probably watching this on a phone, and if you're on a computer, you can take your mouse and do it. But most likely, you just got to take your phone and your thumb and hit that thumbs up button. And there you go. You've helped us out with the YouTube algorithm. You've helped this video find more Mountaineer fans like yourself, and we really appreciate that. You guys got any questions, comments that are in here live? Throw them in the chat. I'll try and get to some of those before we wrap up. Of course, if you're watching after the fact, you can leave them in the comment section as well. Appreciate those interactions. Hopefully, sounding good. Went back through when I was editing the stream to put it up on the audio side last time, which appreciate you guys that listen on the audio side there. You can leave us a rating there if you listen that way. We appreciate that. That helps us on that side of things. But I thought that it was a little bit too poppy, especially when I was hitting P's. So I had a bigger pop filter that I put on my microphone. So we'll see if that makes it any better, any worse. Hopefully still sounds good. You guys let me know in here that are in here live if the sound audio quality still sounds pretty good with this new pop filter on it. If it doesn't, we can always switch back to the other one. But that's what the show is coming today. We got some WVU football scheduling updates. We got another recruiting update. And I do want to address the Phil Steele preseason rankings. I know it's been going around. It's been a hot topic, and I want to take a second and talk about it. I know that really preseason rankings mean nothing at the end of the day, right? And a lot of times, once the season rolls around, they're way off base. this could be another case of that, in my opinion, but I do want to share some thoughts on that and talk about that briefly as well. Here in the front portion of the show, when we talk football, then like I said, on the tail end, we do have a quick little WVU basketball update in regards to Chance Moore's eligibility we'll get to, and then I'll hit some of y'all's comments and we'll call it a show. I do see you saying it sounds good there in the chat. Appreciate that. Glad to hear that. So maybe this pop filter will be the one we go with from now on. We'll see how it sounds when uploaded on the audio side. But appreciate everyone watching this, whether live or on a playback. I've babbled on long enough and teased everything up long enough. Let's get into it here. So let's start it off with the football scheduling news here. Let's go to this announcement from the university that they put out here on their official website. Non-conference football games added to future schedules from Mike Montoro yesterday. So the West Virginia University Department of Intercollegiate Athletics has added the following non-conference home games to future schedules. 2026, they've added UT Martin on September 12th, which it will be their first time visiting Milan Puskar Stadium and the first meeting between the two schools. VMI scheduled to come to Morgantown in 2027 on September 11th. And then a second game between VMI and 2031 as well will be played on August 30th. WVU's won all 11 games in the series against VMI, and the 2027 meeting will be the first time we've met since 1972. So haven't met in my lifetime, and maybe some of the other of you that are watching this, maybe not in your lifetime either. Youngstown State visits Milan Puskar Stadium in 2028. That'll be on September 9th. That'll be the third time they've played, but the first since 2018. I would say I think the last time we played them was when we had Will Greer, and that is indeed the case. So we'll play them again, 10 years later in 2028 on September 9th. The Mountaineers have won the two other games in that series. Then we got Akron, appears on WVU schedule for the first time in 2028 and then again in 2030. 2028 game will be September 16th. The 2030 game will be September 14th. Rhode Island will replace St. Francis, who was on West Virginia's schedule in 2030. Rhode Island will now fill that and play on August 31st. It'll be the first meeting between those programs. So slew of different non-con names added to the schedule. So I know that's just a lot to take in, just going through and checking out the new names, right? So I wanted to find a place where it was a little bit more organized and we can go ahead and just look ahead at the future non-conference schedules. And luckily 247 Sports and Chris Anderson put out this article where we can do just that. So let's do that here. We know this season, obviously, we got Robert Morris, we go to Ohio, and we got Pitt at home for the non-conference schedule here this season. Let's take a look at the future schedules here for West Virginia. Next season, we will play Alabama in Morgantown to open the season. That is going to be so wild, guys. Remember how hyped up that Penn State atmosphere was? I think you take that and you double it. You multiply it by at least a couple, and then you're going to get the crazy atmosphere that's going to be for that game against Bama next year, especially if West Virginia, outperforms expectations, which according to some of those expectations, which we'll talk about later on in this stream, I think they have a good chance to do that. But 2026, you got Alabama at home. You have UT Martin at home the week after that, and then you have Virginia the week after that in a neutral site game. Couldn't think of the name there. You got Virginia in a neutral site game on September 19th. So 2026, it's Alabama, UT Martin, and Virginia. Then we go 2027. That's when West Virginia has the return trip, and they'll open the season at Alabama in 2027. September 11th, they'll play VMI, as we just discussed. And then September 18th, that's when we get our return game with Ohio. We know that we're playing them this season, of course, on the road. A couple years later, 2027, they'll come back to Morgantown on September 18th. Then 2028, West Virginia opens the season against Tennessee on September 2nd in Charlotte, North Carolina. That game last time was a lot of fun. Of course, it was fun for us Mountaineer fans because the result, how it ended up being, but I didn't get a chance to go to that one, but from watching it on TV and hearing from people that were there, the atmosphere was really great. So glad to see they're doing that again as a neutral site game against Tennessee in 2028. September 9th, you take on Youngstown State, and then September 16th is that Akron game we talked about. So 3 home games in 2028. I mean, technically, I guess 2 home games and a neutral site game, I should say. My apologies there. But 2028, you got Tennessee, Youngstown State, and Akron. Then 2029, that's when we have our other game against Ohio at home. We know it's the 2-for-1 deal there. 2029, we open the season with Ohio in Morgantown. Then that's when the series returns. We know that we got that hiatus after this season, 2026, 27, 28. You saw no Pitt on the schedule. But 2029, we got the backyard brawl back on the road in 2029. And then we play Robert Morris again in 2029. So the 2029 non-conference schedule is Ohio, on the road at Spit, and then Robert Morris, old Bobby Moe, back at home. Then we got 2030 as well. So we're booked out all the way through at least 2030 here, where we'll play Rhode Island to open the season at home. Then we play Pitt at home and then Akron at home. So 2030, that sets up nicely. 3 home games in the non-conference schedule to open the 2030 season. Do we go beyond that? Yeah, that's the last that we have the full non-con on. We have, games in 2031 against VMI on the road at Pitt. 2032, we also have Pitt, and then we play Virginia in Charlotte again, but we don't have the full non-con. So full non-conference schedules from 2026 through 2030 there for West Virginia, we now have revealed. And what I like about it is it's a nice change up from, what we had to do for a while there, or we're doing, where we're playing 2 Power 5 opponents. Instead, we're playing an FCS, a group of 5, and then a Power 5 opponent most seasons, with the good majority of those it being Pitt, which is what I like. I think that should be our formula as much as possible moving forward. An FCS, a group of 5 team, and then Pitt as our non-conference schedule. Love that. Even though when we don't have Pitt though on the schedule, I do like that we have some interesting matchups in those Power 5 matchups where we have, our series with Bama, Tennessee, and Virginia. I think all of those will be fun, and they'll, probably be packed out games for non-conference games that'll be well attended by both fan bases. So excited about those future WVU football schedules. Wanted to highlight that. And then now I want to hit that recruiting news again, right? That's going to continue to be a theme throughout these streams in the month of June, is talking WVU football recruiting. Not a ton of updates here, but I did want to update on one potential prospect, because this is really interesting, right? We've talked a lot about West Virginia really swinging for the fences in this 2026 recruiting class, going after a lot of top prospects at their position, a lot of top prospects in their state. We just saw Noah Tischendorf commit to the Mountaineers, one of the highest rated prospects in the state of Oregon. And how about West Virginia going after the number 1 punter in the nation? And what'll really shock you is, guess where he's from? University High School, right in Morgantown, West Virginia. That's right. The number 1 punter in the 2026 class is an in-state prospect. He's actually the number 3 player in the state, funny enough, even though he's the number 1 punter in the nation. But West Virginia has a legit shot to land him. This article here, courtesy of Skylar Callahan over on the WVUSI site. There you see special teams coach Pat Kirkland with the punter there. Jimmy Gregg is the name to know and keep an eye on. Of course, the 2026 class here, as was mentioned in this article. When we get a quote from Jimmy Gregg here in this WVU Sports Illustrated article, he says, "It would mean a lot to me to be a Mountaineer. A lot of my family members are Mountaineers too," he told West Virginia on SI. "One of my favorite memories growing up was being there when Kevin White caught the one-handed catch versus Baylor. It was an awesome memory." So he was there for that big upset over number 4 Baylor when Kevin White went crazy. As he did a lot that season. Greg took his official visit to WVU last weekend, and it was everything he could have imagined. Here's another quote here. He says, "It was great. Lots of great memories were made this past weekend, and the people surrounding the visit were amazing." He also informed that a decision appears to be on the horizon. He wants to compare WVU and Syracuse after his official visit there next weekend and then make a decision. But what do we know? He has visited WVU, right? West Virginia's in contention, one of his finalists. So he's on commitment watch for us. We have, multiple guys that are on that now with all the visitors we have coming through the month of June. But Jimmy Gregg is certainly a guy we're keeping an eye on, especially being an in-state prospect. And as you see here on 247 Sports, number 1 punter in the land in the entire 2026 class there, 3-star 83 grade, number 3 player in the state of West Virginia. So this would be a great addition on multiple fronts. Number 1, Ollie Straw's gone after the season. You need a new punter to take over next year. What better one could you get there than the number 1 punter in the entire nation? And then number 3, you get to lock down one of the top prospects in your state, do a good job keeping your in-state talent home as well. So would love to see West Virginia land Jimmy Gregg. And just so you can see here, that ranking is no fluke. I know, watching highlight tape of kickers and punters, not necessarily something we do a ton, but, his highlight, he does have a highlight reel here on Huddle. And we can look, here's 3 punts right here. Look at this one. That one, look at the hang time on this punt. You don't see that a lot. You don't see that a lot on high school punts. You don't see a hang time like that one on high school punts. Here's another great showcase of his hang time and his ability to look at his way to make that thing backspin and pin it inside the 5 right there. Let's take a look at one more here, because I think this one is really good to take a look at as well, because if you see the conditions, rainy conditions, and he's still able to pin this inside the 20, I think inside the 10 here, if I remember correctly. But we just want to take a look at a couple of his punts so you guys can see he's legit. here with his number 1 ranking, and a great coffin corner punt in the rain there on that one as well. So I think that whole highlight tape's around 90 seconds to 2 minutes if you want to watch more of it. But Jimmy Gregg, the number 1 punter in the entire 2026 class, is from University High School right there in Morgantown, and West Virginia's got a great shot to land him, and we've got him on commitment watch. So there's the 2 main things I wanted to talk about in football. Other than that, we got to address Phil Steele's preseason poll, right? And, I don't think it's any huge surprise that West Virginia is being underrated and undervalued. And quite frankly, I like it, that way. I debated even not talking about this on the show because to me, it's a non-issue because, preseason rankings don't matter for one. And also to me, it's like, I'm more just of the attitude of, okay, let's let him sleep on us. That's fine with me. We'll wake him up when the season starts, that type of thing. But this is from WVSportsChat.com. You guys be sure to check them out. They do a good job over there. Jonathan Martin, Coos and company. Phil Steele predicts WVU football to finish last in Big 12 for 2025 season. This one's from Jonathan Martin. And you see here's a tweet that shares Phil Steele's preseason rankings. He has Baylor, Utah, and Iowa State tied for first, and then Arizona State, Kansas State, Texas Tech tied behind them. West Virginia picked 16th in his preseason poll behind Arizona, Oklahoma State, and others. There's the other 2 there just right in front of the Mountaineers. But he has a 16th, dead last in the Big 12, right? And do I agree? Absolutely not. I do not think so. I would have us at least 12th or higher personally. But that's just me. I'd probably have us in the top 10. But I understand that teams are going to rank us lower. Most of the other preseason mags have us ranked lower. ESPN's has us ranked lower. We've talked about the over-under on the win total on DraftKings and some of the sports betting sites. And I think that that's just going to be the theme because people don't know how to predict this team. How do you predict a team with an entire new coaching staff and essentially an entire new roster as well? It's very hard. Even if some of those pieces are really talented, you don't know how all of those are going to gel together. And there's examples of it going really great when you look at like Indiana last year, and there's examples of it going really poorly. When you look at, Deion's first season at Colorado, when he tried to do a complete overturn, it took him until year 2. So are people looking at that and saying, hey, maybe that's the same thing's happened to West Virginia? So here's the thing I want to get out of the way before I talk about this a little bit is I don't want to disparage Phil Steele or anything like that, or any of the other preseason mags that rank West Virginia low because they have a hard job. And I think ranking the Big 12 preseason rankings is probably the toughest of any conference because how different the season ends up being in comparison to the preseason rankings pretty much every year. But a couple of things that don't have me worried or too upset about this is, number 1, last year, who was predicted to finish last? Arizona State. They won the whole damn thing. So, you got that going for you if you want a silver lining. Also, the last time West Virginia was predicted last, we had a pretty good season a couple of years ago. And if you think that Neil Brown and his staff could use that to motivate that team, what do you think Rich Rod and his staff and the hard edge mentality is going to be able to do with where they're being predicted preseason and stuff, how much they're going to be able to motivate? It's going to be insane. And I think that they're definitely going to use it for that motivation. And to me, I'm like, fine. Like I said, let them sleep on us. That's okay. That's fine. I'd rather be dead last in the preseason rankings than dead last in the postseason rankings. And I can guarantee you right now, jot it down on your calendar, make a bookmark of it, do whatever you want to do. I promise you, West Virginia will not finish dead last in the Big 12 conference. Promise you. That's my guarantee for the season. It's not a hot take if you ask me. I think you look at the staff West Virginia's assembled. I've told you on paper, I think it's one of the best, in school history, if not the best. The talent that we've brought in both the first portal window and the most recent one, a lot of really good players. Now you just have to hope everything works out and it gels right when you're bringing in this many new pieces, 70 plus players to a roster. But I have a good feeling about it. I have full belief in Rich Rod, full belief in this staff, and I think we've got good players for their schemes. So I think that it's going to be a good year where we're going to definitely hit the over on that 5.5 win total. I think for me, the floor is 6 wins. I think that's what we're going to get to. And I think if you get to 6 wins, you're not going to be 16th in the Big 12. You look last year, they were, the teams that were at the bottom were 3-9, 4-8, things like that. So, I think West Virginia will at least probably be in the top 10 of the conference, even at the very worst. That's just my personal opinion. But like I said, I'm not going to hate on anyone that puts out the preseason rankings. And quite frankly, I think Phil Steele's one of the better ones that does that. So that's why I was kind of upset, a little bit, just, I guess, not upset's the right word. I guess I was just disappointed because I'm like, oh man, Phil Steele, you're my guy among the preseason mags usually, and you got West Virginia so low. But Phil Steele's also a guy that'll come out and eat crow if he's wrong. And, he also, when he backed it up, I think, in some tweets and stuff that were out there on social media, his reasoning made sense. And he also was like, hey, West Virginia could surprise some people this year. I'm paraphrasing, but I think that he sees, that it's just so up in the air that you got to go when you're making a preseason prediction, you got to go on one side of the fence or the other. Now, do I think you picked the wrong side of that fence potentially? Personally, I do, because I think we're going to have a pretty good season and surprise people. And like I said, I guarantee we won't finish last, but I'm not going to hate on Phil Steele for making that prediction. But it definitely, when I thought about it, I was like, yeah, I got to bring this up and at least share my thoughts as to why I think that that's not the case. Although I'm not going to hate on it because I still understand, how hard it is to make preseason predictions for the Big 12. Look no further than my own the past couple of years. Last year, my preseason predictions in the Big 12 conference were way off. The year prior to that, I was almost dead on. So, the past 2 seasons, it's just a complete 180 because you never know what's going to happen in this conference for the most part. But wanted to address that. And then lastly, on the football side, I just thought this was cool to share because one thing we've talked about, right, is the West Virginia running back room being absolutely loaded for the upcoming season. And you guys know how much I love Jaheim White. I think he's going to be an absolute stud, maybe the best running back in the conference, potential Doak Walker Award finalist, if I get that out correctly there. And then, of course, we've brought in really talented guys like Jalen Knighton, who's a home run waiting to happen. Sincere Bowers from the JUCO ranks, Cannon Katzer from the FCS. Dewar Hubbard was a young guy that showed out in the spring. Clay Ash won the Nicolich Award. And then we've also brought in Ty Edwards from the FCS, who was a big bruiser of a back, but has good speed to go with that size. People want to call him a CJ Donaldson replacement because of the size, but I think Edward brings a little bit more speed to the table, was really talented at the FCS level. I think he's 6'4", 230, so huge size for a running back. I think he's going to help you in short yardage. He's going to help you in goal line situations, but he's going to get his fair share of carries as well between him, Knighton, and Jaheim White, in my opinion, with Jaheim White getting the most by far. I think will be the guys that touch the rock the most, but that's 3 really good running backs to have. You look at PFF's grades here. This is coming from PFF College on social media. Their highest graded running backs in the Big 12, according to PFF ranking, Ty Edwards is number 2. The transfer West Virginia got in from the FCS there, right behind Bryson Washington of Baylor. Ty Edwards had an 82 grade on PFF last season, which is pretty impressive. So that bears mentioning as we talk about West Virginia's running back room. There's just more and more proof why it is going to be loaded for the upcoming season. So with that being said, I'm take a swig of my coffee, then we'll hit the little basketball update that I have, and then I'll catch up on some of y'all's comments before we wrap up here. All right. Doesn't that always hit the spot? Okay, so this tweet got me excited, as I'm sure it did a lot of you, because one thing that we've had is a bad track record, at least in recent history, of West Virginia when they're trying to get waivers approved by the NCAA on the basketball side. So when WVU men's basketball put this out, eligible with 2 exclamation points, 5th-year guard Chance Moore has been declared eligible for the 2025-2026 season by the NCAA. I was ecstatic. So let's pull up the full press release and read through it here. There is a little bit of a caveat, but at least, overall it's approved because we were a little bit worried about that. We knew he'd already played 4 seasons. But, the one thing I'd said through this process was I wasn't too worried about it myself because if West Virginia felt confident enough to accept his commitment to sign him, they must have felt pretty good about the waiver. And it appears that they definitely did. And that feeling pays off. As we have here from the university's official press release, West Virginia University men's basketball student-athlete Chance Moore has been declared eligible by the NCAA for the 25-26 season. Of course, the native of Brookhaven, Georgia, Moore transferred to WVU from St. Bonaventure this spring. Previously played in 5 games at Arkansas in 21-22, at Missouri State from 22 to 24, and then St. Bonaventure last season. And here's the caveat that I was talking about. Per the NCAA ruling, Moore must sit out WVU's first 5 regular season games. So let me pull up the schedule since we're talking about that, and we'll talk exactly what games we'll be missing Moore for, because although he's not expected to be a starter, he is going to be a key reserve on the team, and one of your key reserves that's probably going to be, one of those guys that can come in and score the basketball for you off the bench, which you really need those type of guys, right? That can come in and score it for you off the bench. That can be that type of microwave style guys, right? So do we not have the non-con schedule yet for basketball? Let me see here. What do they have? We have Well, we know of the Pitt game is November 13th. We know the Charleston Classic, November 21st. I just wonder if we'll have anything before or in between those. So we don't have the non-con yet for the basketball. My mistake. I thought we did. I guess it's where we had that Pitt game come out and the Charleston Classic, of course. So we don't know exactly what games those will be quite yet. Once we have that schedule confirmed, we'll talk about this again to see what games we'll be missing more, because I hope it's not that basketball version of the Backyard Brawl, because we could really use him in that game. I think that the positive side is he'll be here, for the hefty majority of the season and all of conference play, which will be big. He'll be there for the important stuff towards the end of the season. So we'll see what games he misses, but we'll be without him for the first 5 games, although we do get the waiver. And we get the statement here from Coach Hodge stating, "We are pleased that the NCAA approved the waiver for Chance to have his 5th season of eligibility. As I said, when he signed, Chance has the ability, size, and physicality to impact both sides of the ball and impact winning at a high level. We are thrilled with the ruling and look forward to Chance being a Mountaineer this season," which is great. That's huge. We needed that. Like I said, a key reserve, going to be a key player for West Virginia this upcoming season, and a guy that's already had a 20-plus point game in the Coliseum back when he was at Missouri State. So, he's familiar having played in the Coliseum, so missing 5 games shouldn't have too big of an impact on him when he comes back, and the team will be better off when he's on the court. So glad to see that he's eligible for the upcoming season, and hey, that's a big win for the Mountaineers, right? We'll golf clap to that one, because we've been needing those waiver wins on the basketball side for a while now, and finally get one. So that's what I had, guys. Wanted to hit you guys with the future WVU football non-conference schedules, talk a little bit about the number 1 punter in the nation being on commitment watch for the Mountaineers, and then, of course, had to address the Phil Steele preseason rankings, but a positive update there on the basketball side in regards to Chance Moore's eligibility. Other than that, we'll catch up with some of y'all's comments, and we'll call it a show. Appreciate you guys watching live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. Those of you on Facebook or Twitch, be sure to come over to the YouTube channel, subscribe here to get the pre-recorded videos and podcast episodes in addition to the live streams. And if you do watch on YouTube, whether live or after the fact, hit the thumbs up button. Help us out here with that YouTube algorithm. Help us find more Mountaineer fans like yourself. And if you didn't get a chance to chat live, throw your thoughts in the comment section. Appreciate those interactions as well. My guy Matthew in the live chat says, gave me the notification for it this time. Glad to hear. YouTube's super inconsistent. That's something me and Matthew were joking about in the past, that usually YouTube either doesn't send the notification at all, or it sends it like 15 minutes after the stream started. Their notification system's not 100% consistent, but hey, at least we know that it partially is accurate. So if you do have that notification bell clicked, at least a part of the time, you should get a notification bell every time, but at least they're coming in some of the time there. Thanks for the update on that, Matthew. Devil Dog 44 says, let's go. Appreciate you, Devil Dog. Hey, Dane and Reese, good to see you in here. What's up, Mountaineer Nation, he says. And Dane and Reese also with a great comment here, goes hand in hand with what I kind of felt about it. The pick for us being 16th in the Big 12 is just more fuel for Rich Rod's fire. That's right. That's just turning that temperature up on Rich Rod's piss till it's even more flaming hot coming out for this upcoming season. Matthew said preseason rankings don't matter, but what he thinks doesn't matter either, because we're not finishing dead last. Exactly. They clearly didn't learn with what they did with Neil when he was here. Exactly. As I said, they did this to us before, and that was with Neil. Oh, man, Rich Rod, they're in for an even more rude awakening, for real, for sure. Devil Dog 44 says, Rich Rod and company, you're going to take the low expectations. Personally, I believe, and go smack some people in the mouth. Yeah, they don't give a damn about those preseason polls. They're out there, busting their ass, throwing up in practice 30 times, like my friend Mountaineer Paul on Locked On reported. One guy said he threw up 30 times, and they're going through that tour of duty. It's rough right now with those summer workouts, but they're going to be the best conditioned team, most physical team, most hard edge team in the country because of that, and damn sure will not finish last in the Big 12, guys. Let's see here. Matthew says, in regards to Jimmy Gregg, the nation's number 1 punter, I'll be shocked if it's not us. I don't see a reason he should go to Syracuse, especially when he's got an opportunity to stay home. Yeah, I think this one I've got a good feeling on for the good guys as well. I'd give it 75% confidence right now, personally, I think. And Devil Dog 44 with another great point, and another reason that I'm not, harping on the preseason rankings too much is because, like I said, I like it. Let them sleep on us. That's when we're the best. Just as Devil Dog states here, disrespected and discounted. That's where WVU seems to be our most dangerous. It's just our culture to punch above our weight class. That's right. All of our big games, man, against all odds, just like the videos were titled back in the day, right? The videos that summed up those awesome wins, for sure. Matthew said, kid has a leg on him. We need that on special teams. I agree. Jimmy Gregg will be a big pickup. That's your punter. next season after we lose Ollie Straw if we land him. Larry Westfall, good to see you as well. Says, let's go Mountaineers. Let's see here. Yeah, I can't believe Jaheim didn't rank higher than that in PFF. I was surprised by that. But, while we're talking Jaheim, though, we do need to shout out Phil Steele for that because, the page of the magazine was floating around where he picked the Big 12 rankings. And if you look, he also has his conference position rankings, and he did at least rank Jaheim as the number one running back in the conference and us tied for the number one running back room in the conference, which yet again hammers home what I'm talking about us having an absolutely loaded running back room. So at least positive news there that we did get that love from Phil Steele for sure. Matthew says, sucks he has to sit out the first 5 games, but at least that's better than not getting to play at all. Yeah. With how bad our luck was with waivers prior to this, we'll take, just the 5-game suspension and eligible from there on. Super excited about that. And so that's what we got, guys. All caught up in the chat. Like I said, if you didn't get a chance to watch live, you're watching the playback, you got questions, comments, throw them in the comment section on YouTube. I'll address them there when I can get to them. Appreciate those interactions as well. And if you listen on the audio side, you can leave us a rating. That helps us out on that side of things, whether you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, all those stations there. You can find us on any platform. Appreciate you guys that tune in there as well, just like I appreciate you guys that watch the video version live and on the playback. Like I said, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Stay up to date on this WVU basketball news throughout the off season leading to Ross Hodges' first season. And same goes, of course, for WVU football. And we'll have a ton of that coming out over the next couple of weeks or so with more recruiting news, I'm sure, as visits continue for West Virginia throughout this month. And we're going to have a ton of 2026 commits, and that class is already looking good. Got another prospect, the nation's number 1 punter, Jimmy Gregg, on commitment watch for that class. And we got some fun future opponents that we now know for the non-con, plus positive news for WVU basketball. It's all positive right now. We got those golden blue glasses on, seeing everything through that lens, feeling good about these upcoming seasons, the debut for Coach Hodge and the Rich Rod 2.0 era. I can't wait to continue to talk about it with you guys here in the near future. Until next time, as always, I'm Jordan Cruz, and let's go Mountaineers.